It's day 2 of Empire Week, and contrary to what I am seeing on the internet from some Empire players, the world hasn't ended. So I'm here to bring you the next thing that I'm excited about, and that is the War Wagon. I made a grand sweeping statement last video where I said that I think that the hammer that the Tattooed Guard and the rest of the White Wolves have is maybe the best weapon since the core books were printed, and I stand by that. I think it's only the sword of Hoeth that's better than it. I think the War Wagon might be the best block of stats that we've had printed since the core books came out. I think it's fantastic. It's 140 points, and you get so much. It is, in my opinion, so far above rate for what you pay that there's got to be something there, right? First of all, let's just compare it to the 2 chariots that came out relatively recently. I guess I was going to say over the last year. Everything came out over the last year. But the 2 chariots that really jump to mind when I think about chariots that have been released in arcane journals, the Black Orc chariot is 134 points if you take the great weapons on it. And then there's the Chosen chariot, which comes in at, I want to say 140 points, 130 to 140 points. And they're both T5 with 4 wounds. The chariot itself is strength 5 as well. The crew are admittedly better, but in this case you've got more crew. They have a variety of weapons, and we're still looking at that 3-up armor save, which is frankly a little bit ludicrous for what it is. It's a massive, armored wagon being pulled, but everyone's pretty exposed on the top of it. I wouldn't have been mad if they made it a 4-up, but I'm very pleased that they made it a 3-up, because that means we've got a ludicrous pile of stats, and if you know anything about me, I love a ludicrous pile of stats. So if we're not comparing it to those 2 chariots, because honestly, I think this is leagues above both of those, and I do love a Chosen chariot, as you may have noticed, we can compare it to the Steam Tank, because it kind of does a similar role to the Steam Tank, where you've got some piddly attacks, some piddly shots. Admittedly, the Steam Tank has a cannon, but it also costs, twice as much. And then you've got various other rules as well. The thing that really springs to mind, or the first thing that catches the eye, is the impact hits. You've got D6 plus 1 impact hits. It's a heavy chariot, so it's got lumbering. So that's D6 plus 1 impact hits at strength 5, AP 2. It's got a movement of 7. Obviously, it doesn't have swift stride, but you can't have everything. But then it also has D3 plus 1 stomp attacks. And these are only at AP 1. They're not at AP 2, which is fine. It's a budget version of the Steam Tank. But AP1's really nice for those stomp attacks. It gives you additional reliability. Weirdly, you get them against behemoths because it doesn't specifically say that you don't. So this just gets to run over the foot of a dragon and do some damage sometimes, which is cool. And then also it treats low linear obstacles as dangerous terrain instead of impassable. That's never come up in any of my games that I've played so far, but at some point it will, and I'll be super happy for it. So that's great. Other than that, you've got stable firing platform, which means that you can march and shoot. Amazing. When I'm playing a chariot, what I want to do is I want to get into position. And yes, with a lumbering pivot, you can move 7 inches and reposition, and that's fine, but it's not the most mind-blowing. Sometimes you just need to move the full distance, and being able to shoot while you're doing that is pretty nice. The shots that you'd lose, it's not the end of the world, but again, it's just like a nice little, a little bit more. Maybe I want to take 5 of these things, The next little bit of spicy sauce that this has is that it's got 6 models on top, and they're all equipped slightly differently. I personally dislike that. It slows the game down, but it's how the model is. It's flavorful. You've got, your classic. It's very sort of, I've got a whole party of adventurers going out and doing something. We've got a real mixed bag. It's cool. A little bit of a pain, but once you've played it a few times, I guess the rolling will speed up. And I guess it's not too bad because it's only really 3 different weapons per phase, because you've got 3 ranged weapons and 3 melee weapons, and then you can just take 3 hand weapon attacks as well. So in the shooting phase, each member that has a gun can shoot, which is great stuff. And then in combat, you can use either the unique weapon or the hand weapon. It's almost always going to be the unique weapon, but I guess if you're worried about the strikes last on the ball and chain, you may end up going with the shooting attacks instead. So, shooting-wise, what do you got? You got a blunderbuss, 12-inch range, strength 3 AP1, multiple shots D3, but you don't take any penalties for firing at long range, using multiple shots, or stand and shoot. This is a little bit of piddly firepower. It's not too bad to have. You'll just chip away. Having one of these is not really that important. if you're taking multiple of this unit, it starts to add up a little bit. Next up, we've got the long rifle, which is a single shot, strength 4, AP 1, armor bane 1, cumbersome, so no fire and standard shoot with this thing. You can target specific models within a unit. Again, this isn't super important if you've got one, because if you're going for characters, they're going to have multi-wounds. If you're going for like a unit champion, they can still look out, sir, and all that good stuff. But if you've got, for example, 5 of these, it starts to add up. Your opponent's going to fail that lookout, sir, at some point, or you're going to get a couple of shots into the character that they really weren't expecting you to. So this is fine. It's just, there. It's a handgun with long range, basically. Then you've got the repeating rifle. So this is 24-inch range, strength 4, AP -1, 3 shots. It's a repeating handgun. I'm not really sure why it's got a different name. It's got the same rules, but that's fine. So you're putting out, on average, where if you're shooting at close range, 5, 6 shots? It's fine. It's just a little bit of firepower. It's all at AP1, and it's all at strength 3 or 4. Well, what about melee then? You've got 1 ball and chain. So remember, these are all a single attack from the melee weapons. 1 attack at strength 6, AP -2, armor bane 1, 2 hand strikes last. So effectively a great weapon held by something competent. You've got the hooked halberd, which is strength +1, so up to strength 4, AP -2, armor bane 2. Requires 2 hands, not a problem. You don't have anything else to hold. And then the man catcher, strength 3, AP1, killing blow, requires 2 hands. These attacks are kind of cute. They're just there. They just add up. A lot of the damage is going to come from those stomps and attacks, but sometimes you're going to, killing blow something in full plate. You're going to do a wound to a character you weren't expecting to do. It's just going to add up over time, and this unit has a lot of incremental damage, I would say. And if you're taking 1 of them, it probably doesn't matter too much. If you're taking 5 of them, that's when I'm starting to get quite excited about it. Okay, that's all well and good. Well, how can you take them? You can take them in the Null city-state. Let's have a look at that. Even for me, city-state and Null. This is the obvious place to start looking at. You can take them in special. So you can just take them up to 50% of your army's points value. Realistically, most places that I've engaged with at least play rule of 3. So you could take 3 there. You can also take them as a unit upgrade, or a mount, I should say, for the Empire Engineer. And you can take Empire Engineers uncapped. So theoretically, you could get up to 6 here. Then on top of that, you can take a steam tank per 1,000 points, but they're over 250 points, so realistically, if you're playing 2,000 points, which is the common amount, you're capped at one of those. And then you can also take a Waralter of Sigmar, but we'll come back to that later on. So if you wanted to do the city-state and Null, this is definitely one of the ways you could do it. You can take a BSB on the Engineer. I really like a BSB on a heavy chariot. It's going to get you up to 8 wounds, which is really solid. You've got a 3-up save. You're going to put a ward save on there. You've got +1 combat res just for being, a chariot. Not a chariot, for being close order with unit strength 5 or greater. You're going to get put a war banner on there. You can be a BSB. So you've got a flat combat res of 3. You're going to grind out some attacks. You're going to be pretty tanky. I like that. That's the most appealing part to me for playing this in the city-state and Null. And you can take a lot of them. What else can you take? Well, you can take characters that I don't particularly care about. You can't take level 4 casters. And that kind of sucks, because I feel like level 4 casters are pretty necessary. You can maybe get away with it with the full send knight list that I was talking about yesterday. We're going to break that down more tomorrow. Do remember that I'm going to be talking to Jack Allen, #1 Empire player, when we're doing our video for, that'll be Thursday. But if you're looking at Null, you're really capped. You can only take level 2 casters, and I don't love that. Maybe there's rules that make it worthwhile. Let's have a look at those. So Null has a lot of rules. I won't break them down super in depth. We'll just talk about what's relevant here, because I'm going to look at them tomorrow. But first of all, big guns, no fear. You get immune to psychology while in range of a friendly war machine. It's fine. It doesn't really make much difference. I guess it's nice to have, so you can have them as a true wall of just not falling back, but that's only for the character-mounted ones, and then you have to be near your war machines, which is a little harder to set up. Entrenched positions, buffing a war machine. Gun numbers, buffing a war machine. This is quite a nice rule. I do like it on the Hellblaster volley guns, so you can, get them into range turn 1, but not super relevant here. Handgun drill, detachment of state missile troops can fire with additional rank. Not super relevant, but maybe it's how you want to build out your core. You can get more shots in. That seems fine, but not relevant here. The non-state troops. This is just how you build your state troops. not relevant. And then you've got the veteran outriders, which is missile weapons wielded by outriders are not subject to the ponderous special rule. So it's not even the entire army is not subject. It's literally just the outriders. Okay, there's definitely something there. There's definitely an army you can build. I think outriders are fantastic. Obviously, I was playing them a while ago. You can go back and find there was a pick my list battle, I believe, between me and Jack, actually. Jack playing Skaven and me playing a lot of outriders. But yeah, not really all that much that's exciting for the chariot list we're looking at. Okay, so if we look here, you can see the Grand Army obviously doesn't have it on there, but there's a footnote at the bottom of the War Wagon rules, which states you can have 0-1 War Wagon as a rare choice per 1,000 points in a Grand Army list. So this is the sort of list that you've been building Empire with up until this point. You can have all of the characters. Just a note, obviously you've got Wizard Lords in there. That's an important one. Then you've got the standard special, if you want to back it up with War Machines, probably a good way to take this sort of list. And then you've also got your various, you can take a Steam Tank in rare, you can take the Hellblaster Volley Guns, and you can still take the Waralter as Sigmar, still capped as 0-1. That's super solid. The only thing to note here is you can't take a BSB as an engineer, which is sad because I think genuinely a BSB War Wagon would be very strong. You'd have to weigh up whether it makes a difference in terms of not getting the level forecaster. I think this sort of list, it's providing a front line that's very hard to chew through, and then you're scoring points with your other things like potentially cannons, potentially wizards, whatever you put into your core, probably just some knights just to try and keep things spicy. Maybe some white wolf knights. Maybe we'll get to that. So the humble engineer, the main strength of Empire up until this point, in my opinion, or one of them anyway, has been that you can take what is an effectively unbelievably cheap character and it unlocks something for you. In this case, engineers are good for war machines. Engineers are very cheap, 45 points. They've got ballistic skill 4, which is not mind-blowing, but again, they're super cheap. You can just take the repeater handgun and you can slap it on a 140-point chariot, which is exactly what we're going to do here. So looking at this, 193 points, that gets you 140 points for the chariot, 45 for the engineer, and then 8 points for the repeater handgun. That gets you a T5 model with 8 wounds and a 3-up armor save. You can also then buy ward saves, but I think genuinely it might be better just to go, I'll have more, instead of going for, I will have better. Something I think that's important to be aware of when you're writing this list is that the Master of Ballistics rule, which is if you're not in combat, which is actually going to happen with this list because you do want to be making those charges, but especially early on, you get to pass on your ballistic skill or reroll a single artillery dice. That's just solid. You're probably going to want to take models that can benefit from that, I would say. So when you're building the list, do look at putting artillery in because I think that's a really solid choice and you're paying for it. So we've got the pot. We've got the beginnings of a stew, but what else are we going to do to get cooking? Well, I think the next obvious choice is to take a Lector of Sigmar and put it on a Waralter. There's a few reasons for this. It is more expensive. It is pretty pricey, but we'll work through it point by point. First of all, what it has is it has a better leadership, so you can take an actual general and not be capped at leadership 7, which would really suck. Second of all, you've got Prayers of Sigmar. These things are pretty solid. The one that, well, there's 2 that I would say are really good. You know what? I take it back. All 3 of these are really good situationally. First of all, you've got the command phase. You pick this model and a single friendly unit, going to be one of the War Wagons, and you give them reroll to hit and wound of natural 1s in the combat phase. That's, you're not going to be hitting a lot, but it's going to be rerolling 1s to wound with those impact hits and stomps. That's really nice. And again, the War Lector also has a good amount of output there. Shield of Faith. This is a defensive one for if you're into, let's say, another gun line. You're going to be wanting to put 5-up ward saves on this and another model. So again, you're going to give the Arch Lector and you're going to give one of the War Wagons a 5-up ward save. Really solid because there's only so many you can buy. Only so many is 2. But it's good to have just more options there. Finally, you've got Soulfire. This is a single enemy unit in combat, takes D6 strength 3 hits at AP2 with flaming and magical attacks. That's basically you hit them with a slightly swingier Pillar of Fire. It's fine. Yeah, it's aggressively fine. But yeah, No, it's not bad. It's just extra damage, and what you don't want to do is be stuck in combat and not be able to get out. You want to be stuck in combat on your turns and be able to hit things is nice. The sort of unit that might be able to tie you up is either something that's super tanky or something that is so many wounds that they don't care, and this is going to help you chip through so many wounds that you don't care. What's the answer for super tanky? We'll get onto that one. We'll come back to that. I won't take too long going over the Waralter because it's a unit that already existed. If you're an Empire player, you might be aware of it, but it fits in with this super well. It's a heavy chariot. It's T5. It's got 8 wounds when you put the Lector on there, so you're still at that same point. It's 135 points. It's very similar. It does only have a 4-up armor save, which does suck, but there's an easy option for that because you can take a 25-point piece of armor, which is called the Twice Blessed Armor, and it's full plate. In addition, you may cast Hammerhand as a bounce spell at power level 2. That's pretty nice for a character that's probably going to end up in combat and has multiple ways to really benefit from being in combat. So you take that, the full plate, you take a shield, that gets you up to a 3-up save. You've got the option to go for the 5-up ward against shooting, or you can take one of the ward saves on that model. It's, ifs and buts. You can take whichever way round you want. So we've got this character. We're looking at base 245 plus items. Realistically, we're coming in at about 270, 272, something along those lines, 275, in that ballpark. And it comes with a good raft of attacks. It's got impact hits. You've got a couple of attacks with the Warhorse, and then you've got, obviously, the Lector on top, who's pretty decent as Empire characters go. You've got Magic Resist 2, which is nice. Stubborn, which is just always good. Symbol of Might, which is increasing your command range, which you might not do because it might be a general, or you could go for a wizard to make a general, but there's options there. And then there's Witch's Bane, which is all wizards within this model's command range and -2 to their casting rolls. So you've got to be careful because you probably want to take wizards as well. Also, you can auto-pass fear tests and reroll panic tests. So it's a pseudo BSB as well. You can get away with not taking a BSB if you hunker up around this thing. That rounds us off nicely in our character options, and obviously there are level 4 wizards. I'm not going to show you them. You know what they do. It's a level 4 wizard. But we've also got the Empire Steam Tank, and that is really the piece de resistance. I wish you could take 2. If you could take 2 and Null, I would overlook the fact that you couldn't take wizards. But unfortunately, 265 points is not divisible by 2,000 in a way that works nicely. So you're capped at having 1 Steam Tank, which is fine, but not exciting. And that is the same. It's a War Wagon, but War Wagon plus. It's got the impact hits, it's got the stomp attacks, it's AP2 stomp attacks, which is really nice. It's AP2 impact hits as well. It's got a slower movement speed, but it's got steam power to move around. It's got a cannon on the front. These are the important things about it. It's really solid. T7, 10 wounds. It's got a 3-up armor save. It's just very hard to chip through, and it's another piece of real meat that you've got to get through. Also, something to note, with the increased attention, I would say, people are getting more and more interested in Killing Blow and Monster Slayer. They're chariots. Everything in this list is chariots that matters. There's no Killing Blow against a chariot. There's no Monster Slayer against a chariot, which is just really nice. It gives you a lot of reliability. It's a nice tanky list, and that is something that I can put my hat on. You gotta deal with this the honest way, unless you have a Chaos Lord on Dragon. Speaking of, I did say that there was a way that we were going to deal with the dragons. What is that way? Just a quick sidebar while we're on the topic of dragons. Obviously, we all know Fanatics are the best way to kill or tie up a dragon. Harbingers of Doom, they're a character that's also Fanatic, so definitely worth putting in if you're worried about those dragons. It's just cannons. It's just bring as many cannons as you want. You can. So this is very much the prototype of a list. This is not the hard and fast. This is the way that you should be running this list. But you could go for an illusion caster if you're really worried. If you think that running 3 cannons and a steam tank isn't going to be enough to get through all of that meaty dragon, bring an illusion caster. Put down Column of Crystal, Miasmic Mirage them, make them really sad, never get to charge you, and then you've got more turns to cannon them. That's one of the options that you've got available to you. Alternatively, just play fast and loose. Think you can tie them up. Make sure you redirect them in good ways, and have a good time with battle magic. So those are the options available to you. But this list definitely wants 3 cannons, and you definitely want to be picking up as much as you can. Before I wrap this up and give you the sort of overview of what I think the bones of this looks like, there is one thing that's definitely worth talking about, and that is that engineers have something called clouds of soot and smoke. This model is considered to be behind full cover whilst within 3 inches of a friendly unit whose troop type is War Machine. That probably shouldn't work when they're on a chariot. It currently does, because nothing says it doesn't. Full cover, for those of you who aren't fully sure, doesn't mean you can't be shot, but it does mean you're -2 to be hit by ballistic skill shooting. Now, ballistic skill shooting is usually not the best way to deal with something like a T5 8-wound model, but if you're playing against heavy iron drakes, I guess, you'll be -2 to be shot if you're near a cannon. So that's something. Make use of that. So here's my current thinking. You can't actually fit as many War Wagons in as I'd like if you go with the Waralter and the Steam Tank. There's maybe a world where you just go War Wagon, War Wagon, War Wagon, War Wagon, War Wagon, and you just go full War Wagon. That might be the way. Drop the Steam Tank, drop the Lector on the Waralter. Maybe that's the approach you take. I'm not sure. It's something that I want to play around with because it seems super fun. Core is also just a bit of a placeholder. 10 Order of the Wolf with Wolfhammer Empire Knights seems like a solid unit to have in. They're just good in general. Archers with Scout, they're just solid. If you're playing Rule of 3 for your core, change this up. Maybe put in 10 crossbows or something like that. This is more just sort of like a proof of concept. But yeah, maybe the version with 5 or 6 War Wagons in instead of the Steam Tank and the Lector is better. Or maybe a second level forecaster. Yeah, one to play around with. But let me know down in the comments, because this is a list that I'm very excited to see. And if you want to see me play it, there is potential. If you are one of my channel members, you might be able to recommend that I play this list or a similar sort of list for next month's Fixed Mind List challenge. Thank you for watching, and thank you to the support that I receive from my channel members. Huge thanks to the Grail Knight tier supporters, and also thanks to the Longbeards and the Fanatic tier supporters as well. If you want to support the channel, you too can become a member. The link is down below the video. But if you don't want to give me any money, which is entirely fair enough, I would appreciate the thumbs up, the comments, all of those good things that help me get found in the YouTube algorithm. They really help, and they've been helping grow the channel, and I appreciate the support that I've been given. If you want to see more stuff and just engage in the community we've been building, there is a closer order Discord down below. It's not a VIP Discord, anyone can join, but there are some VIP sections for the YouTube members at Longbeard tier and above. Currently, I'm trying to get 2 videos out a week on a Thursday and a Sunday, and also doing 2 live streams. That's a Tuesday and a Friday. I do stick to this as much as possible. So, check me out. I'll see you around.